and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston Moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Hey, Cold Coffee Club. Welcome to another episode. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. This episode, we're going to talk about Ask Houston Moms. It's a recurring post on the Houston Moms website. It is all about asking for advice. We have Marisa Cockrell, who is the author of that post, and she answers any questions you submit to her, and you can help other moms prepare for whatever it is you might be going through. But before we dig into that, let's jump into our tea. So last week was Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday, and so we all had the day off. And I don't know if you know this, but Pluckers, the restaurant, has all-you-can-eat wings on Mondays, and I never get to take advantage, and I love wings. Oh my gosh. So we did decide to go try out some all-you-can-eat wings. Now, if you remember, last week we had some really cold weather, like weather that shut down school the day after MLK Day. It was pretty icy and cold out there. Now, when I tried to venture out, listen, I'm from Colorado, so I pride myself in knowing how to drive in cold weather. But when we ventured out, we did hit a patch of ice. And, you know, I was being careful, but I was not ready for that. And we did skid, and it was terrifying. And we didn't hit anything, and everyone is completely safe and fine, and everything was okay. But it was just enough to be terrifying. You know, that's not something you want to experience with your kids in the car. It's nerve-wracking. Thankfully, I did remember all the training I had from when I was a young driver in Colorado, and, you know, steering into the skid and, you know, not panicking, even though my brain was like, oh my gosh, but I remembered to stay in as much control as there possibly could be. So everything was fine. So, you know, the win is that we got wings, but the fail is that it was terrifying on the way there. So we're going to stick with the win. Everyone's fine, but my kids do like to remind me from time to time, like, Mom, you remember that time you were not as careful as you should have been? But we're all good. It's fine. For my cream and sugar today, this is something I did not know about until recently, and I absolutely love the whole concept, all of it. I would highly recommend you check out your local Kroger store to see if they offer Kroger Chef Jr. Now, this is an instructor-led cooking class where your kids get an apron and a chef hat and some kitchen tools, and they get to learn about cooking in a safe space. You don't have to worry about the mess. You don't have to worry about the prep, any of it. They set it all up for you, and depending on whatever theme they have that week, that's what your kiddos get to help cook, and they get to eat it themselves. They get to take recipes home. It is an absolute blast. It's so worth it. It's $7 per kid, and it is an absolutely perfect way to kick off your weekend. It takes place on Saturday mornings, and my kids have gone with their granny once before, and this past weekend they got to make waffles with like a fruit compote, and it was adorable. And I love that my kids get to experience that. You know, it's hard to incorporate them in my kitchen time, because a lot of times I'm just whipping up a meal. Like, let me put it all together. I don't want you in my way. This is hard for me. I only have half an hour to put dinner together between work and picking kids up from school and activities and all that. So it's sort of disappointing that I don't incorporate them as much as I really want to. But these kinds of classes at Kroger are perfect for kind of facilitating that fun learning of cooking. And see if your Kroger store offers these classes. So we have Marisa Cockrell with us today, and she is the author of Ask Houston Moms. We're going to talk to her about why she thinks Houston moms needed this advice column and some of the interesting questions she's gotten. All right, Cold Coffee Club. Today I have Marisa Cockrell, and she is going to chat with us about our recurring post called Ask Houston Moms. But before we get into that, we're going to give Marisa a chance to tell us a little about herself and share who she is to Houston moms.
Yeah, hey there, I'm Marisa Cockrell. I'm a professional counselor and owner of Here Comes the Sun Counseling, which is a group practice in Katy, Texas. I have three sons. My oldest is a sophomore at Baylor, my middle is a senior in high school, and then my youngest is a seventh grader. I'm married to a pastor. We've been married 24 years. What else? I'm passionate about mental health for families. I love parenting topics. Whenever I was a little kid, I used to read the advice column in the local newspaper.
Yeah.
Whenever we were when we were having our kids, my husband was a youth pastor, and so we spent a good bit of time talking to parents of youth and asking them all kinds of questions. How did you handle this? How'd you handle this? And so it's been an interest of mine for a really long time, just parenting, how to do the best job I can. I think a lot of us moms feel that way. And then kind of later in life, went back to school, went to seminary and got my counseling degree as a professional counselor. So then also kind of just improving myself through that experience, and then also just learning the skills to walk people through their stories of pain. And so that's a little bit about me and my background and kind of how I ended up here.
Awesome. And what do you do for fun? Tell us something you like to do for fun.
I am a foodie. I love to go out to eat with my husband. We like to try really cool restaurants downtown or anywhere we can find something neat to do. We also love musicals. We're heading to Les Mis this week. So those are some things we love to do.
Awesome. Houston is probably one of the best cities to live if you are a foodie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just talking to somebody about that not so long ago. It's like, if you like food, this is where you need to be.
Exactly. All right, well, let's jump into Ask Houston Moms. So what is Ask Houston Moms?
Well, Ask Houston Moms is kind of like those advice columns I was talking about that I grew up reading. That's kind of where it birthed from, was just my passion for that. So just an area where you can ask any question that you might have parenting related. I think it builds this kind of community where we're not alone, like this island where I have no one to ask. Like, there's a place to reach out and say, hey, have you ever experienced this? What have you done in this situation? So it's like involving moms all over Houston and what's actually going on with them. And it gives them the opportunity to have their voice heard. So I think it's a unique expression where people get to be involved, and there's, interaction between us as the writers and the moms of Houston.
Right. Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit about why this is needed. I think that sense of community and that, reminder that we're not alone and that we have very similar situations, and maybe other moms could give us some advice. So that's awesome. I feel like a lot of moms need to know that their circumstances aren't always unique, and someone else might have some insight to provide to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I'm really aware of is that in our culture, and especially the American culture, like, we're very isolated. I think there's some advantages to that. Like, we have autonomy in how we raise our children and the decisions that we want to make. But on the flip side of that, it can be very lonely. And I think that we have these feelings that everybody else has it all together. And it's hard to ask for help when we're not used to that as a culture. So, I mean, other cultures, and especially in the past, I mean, they raised families as a community, right? So like, you have grandma and mom right there next to you, kind of helping you with questions that you may have, or, why is he doing this? Or how do I handle this? And, now we don't necessarily have that. So it can provide, I think, a lot of desperate loneliness for people. So just, the ability to just have a lifeline to reach out and say, how the heck did you handle this? So, I come from a perspective of a seasoned mom, but also a professional counselor. So I think it gives people a little bit of both for the background, but getting free advice from a professional counselor isn't all that bad, right? So,
Right. It's interesting because I was recently chatting with someone about, being a single mom now and what that looks like and how it feels very like it's all on me and I am doing it completely alone. And I don't have family here. I don't have super close friends. I have friends here who are also parents, but I wish I had more. And these kinds of posts are so useful to remind me that I'm not alone, and that there's, even if it's not a physical team behind me, I do have a team of advice that I can resort to when I'm overwhelmed with motherhood, which is often.
yes, I think it also, like, even the questions themselves, I think, provide people a perspective of, oh my gosh, somebody else is experiencing that, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's a unifying opportunity, right? Where we're reading other people's experiences and going, oh goodness, like I'm not alone, right? Other people
absolutely.
experience kids that won't go to sleep, or
Right.
kids that are experiencing anxiety, other people are experiencing that. So
Yes, yes. So far, I know the post is relatively new, but what has been your favorite question so far?
I love the, like, big hairy questions, like how do you talk to your kids about sex, or what do you do with the first crush kind of situation. I think the reason I like them is because it's an opportunity to encourage moms to continue to be brave, continue to engage their kids. One of the things that I've learned in attachment theory in counseling is that there are three basic needs that all kids need in order to flourish, and they need these things from their parents. And one of those things is connection, right? Just the I want to spend time with you. I desire to connect with you. Another one of those things is boundaries, just healthy boundaries. You can explore the world, but there's a safe place for you to come back to.
Right.
And the third thing is being able to experience forgiveness in the home, right? So I mess up as a kid, but I know I can always come back. Or mom and dad maybe said something to me that was really harsh, but they'll come back and repair with me. And so I think, thinking through those three, basic but very profound needs that kids have, and being able to continue to put that in front of moms, like go and pursue them in these deep topics. Like nothing is scary for them if you can handle it without fear, right? So if you can approach your kid with, you can come to me with anything, we can talk about anything. And it's such an opportunity to provide like freedom and safety in the home. And I just think it just changes the generations. I mean, I get so excited about it because when a kid can come to mom or dad or both and say, I don't know how to handle this, or I have this big question that's like, would be mostly embarrassing to ask, but they're coming there to ask, like, think about, I don't know, just the impact of that in families. So
Right.
those questions are fun to me just because I can say, pursue them,
Mhm.
talk to them. Like really the answer typically you'll see, I have kind of a theme is always, it's okay, just go talk to them about it. Like, right, just pursue conversation.
Yeah.
So I feel like I answer that way almost every time. Um, and so I think that there's no black and white right answer a lot of times with advice. It's more show them your heart, be vulnerable with your kids, and pursue conversation with them. And so those questions are fun because I know it's like big question, then it's like, well, just engage with them, and then it's not so scary.
Right. Yeah. And it's so hopeful too that moms are reaching out to get that information. So it shows you that they are at least entertaining these conversations, which is great. Like, okay, I wanna know the best way to approach this because I'm ready to go ahead and have these conversations, these uncomfortable conversations. And then it shows also that like you're ready to connect with your kid. And that's amazing to see as well. And hopefully encouraging to other moms when they see your response. It's like, okay, yeah, now I feel confident and comfortable to have those conversations with my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that it's like, thanks for asking this,
Yes. Yeah,
because that right there is a step in engagement.
absolutely.
I'm not being passive. I'm actively trying to pursue how to do this the best way I can. Like
Yes.
no parent is going to do their job perfectly. I'll circle back to attachment theory. They call it the good enough parent, right? Like that's how you produce healthy, whole children, is being good enough, right? Like praise God that like that's the standard.
Yes.
Because no one can be perfect. So I think just engaging the topic, no matter how you choose to do it, is better than not engaging, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's great.
What has been the hardest question for you to answer? Maybe it made you think, or it was a little uncomfortable, or it made you explore something that you hadn't really touched on in a while or at all. So what was your toughest question?
So I'm going to answer the same thing, like the how to talk to your kids about sex question. So it's probably one of my favorite topics because I love to take the faux pas out of it, right? Like we can talk about anything in our home and it's a safe place to ask the question. No one's going to make fun of you. No one's going to be like, I cannot believe you asked that, right? It's a safe place. So I love the question, but I do come from a Christian perspective, and it made me pause a lot to just be respectful for people from different backgrounds and different perspectives, and just think, how do I answer this in a way that honors any mom that may be reading it? And that took me a really long time to kind of parse through, right? Just because I have this value doesn't mean that everyone has this value. And so how do I answer it in a way that is helpful to a general audience that maybe has a different value system than I do? So that one was challenging, but I got through it. And
yeah. Completely understandable. Yeah, that's a tough route to take, having to make sure that it is palatable for everybody and be real as possible, but also making sure to have a little bit of a filter, to respect everybody.
Yeah, because I think that question is very complex in today's culture, right? Like your child could, be saying, I am attracted to the same sex, or I don't know if I'm attracted to anybody. So, just that question's so huge nowadays, right? When I was growing up, it was, a simpler topic, even though it probably wasn't. We just made it simple, right?
Right.
So I think now just, being respectful of, and man, it's such a wide, hard answer to answer something narrowly in this, this much space on a
right.
Yeah. So trying to be mindful of that.
Of course, yeah. But thinking back to when you were a new mom, what is a question that you would have asked if Ask Houston Moms was available to you?
Well, I think I asked the questions, right? Like I had people around me, or I'd pursue people and I'd ask the questions. I think that if I was currently today, like asking, somebody that was maybe a little more seasoned than me, I was thinking, I have two sons at home that are just very not motivated for school. And we try to de-emphasize like achievement in our home. Like we're emphasizing character, and so, but the balance between working hard and not focusing on grades, right? Like that balance is really difficult for me. And I feel like I go back and forth, like I've too much leniency, too much, strictness. And so probably would ask somebody how they navigated that with children that aren't high achievers, right? That are they're not necessarily going to be engineers, or so how do you balance like who you are and how you're wired as a gift to the world, and we want to celebrate that, but we also have to do our job, which your job right now is your schoolwork. So
right.
It's challenging right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of moms have that question. So I wonder if that will come up on the post sometime soon.
Answer my own question, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I will be sure to share the link to go ahead and submit questions to our audience. I think that'll be great to ask have some new questions pop up on the post. Where can our listeners find you, either on social media or find out information about your practice?
Yeah, so on Instagram, most of my social media focus has gone to the group practice, and so I help a lot on that front. So I would probably point people to our Instagram, which is at Here Comes the Sun Counseling. That's also our Facebook page. And then our website is herecomestothesuncounseling.com. So we do kind of keep a steady stream of just kind of mental health tips and advice and encouragement on there. So
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to check out the Ask Houston Moms post every month. You're posting monthly, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was so much incredible information. So we look forward to reading more about that every month.
Thank you.
Our Houston Moms House Blend this week is called King Cake in Houston. Where you at? Alyssa writes this post for us and steers us in the right direction for king cake. We are coming up on Mardi Gras season, and I didn't know about king cake before I moved here, but I see now that it is very much a tradition in the Houston area, and finding the best king cake can be kind of tough. So Alyssa is going to point you in the right direction. Go get your king cake. Let's wrap up with a see you later caffeinator, and this just kind of piggybacks on the entire idea of Ask Houston Moms. It is great to have that tribe, that mom community that you can ask questions to, but also just a reminder to be confident in yourself. Go with your gut feeling. It very rarely steers you wrong. And if you don't have that mom tribe to go to with any questions you have, of course, Houston Moms is here to help, but trust in yourself. You've got this, mama. You know your kids, you know what you believe in, you know your strengths and your weaknesses. If push comes to shove, go with your gut and be confident in what you know and believe. Well, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Cold Coffee Club, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.